to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink, cause I think I'm going all in.
Welcome back to the Flying Wheel Podcast. I am your host, as always, the Mexinadian, and it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been quite a few months, hasn't it? Yeah, I took a little bit of a break there just because I had a lot of stuff going on, kind of got burnt out on everything. So I'm not sure how long this little section of this podcast is going to last realistically, but, I've got time now, and I'm planning on trying to get this a little bit more regular. How regular? I don't know. I'm not going to commit to an actual date, but boy, has a lot of stuff happened since the last episode. We had a lot of stuff. Obviously, you guys all know the big stuff that happened months ago. I'm not going to get into that, but just recently, a lot of stuff has happened with the Red Wings in general. And first, we're going to start with the obvious. Derek Lalonde is no longer the head coach of the Detroit Red Wings. He was fired a few days ago to be replaced by Todd Mclellan. Now, Todd Mclellan is he's a very good coach. He coached for the Edmonton Oilers, the San Jose Sharks, and the LA Kings as the latest. And all of those teams made it to the playoffs at some point. I think they only made it twice, but that's because they were kind of in the middle of this whole rebuilding thing. But then, they got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and you know what happened after that. But yeah, it's nice to have a fresh voice, and boy, was it fresh. I don't have anything bad to say about Lalonde, really. His systems just were not working for this team, and you could tell that the difference is night and day between how these two teams, how the teams are playing, or how this team was playing between the two coaches already. It's only 2 games in, and Todd McLellan has made a noticeable difference with how this team plays. And McLellan said it best in their practice before the Washington Capitals game, where he said, "Play fucking hockey. You've done it your whole lives." And he said that they're playing too mechanical, and it was obvious from the start. Literally every single Red Wings fan could see that this team was playing incredibly mechanical, and it was super easy to read. People were wondering why Patrick Kane hasn't been producing. Yeah, maybe he's not the same player he was 5 years ago, or even, 2 or 3 years ago, but hell, even last year. But he's not that bad. The skill is still there. The IQ is still there. The way Patrick Kane plays the game, that doesn't go away with old age. His hockey IQ is still there. His hands are still there. The skill is still there. But you could tell it was such a mechanically played game that teams were reading on it. Patrick Kane's not producing. Well, yeah, because that every single time you're in the offensive zone, whether it's on the power play or just 5-on-5, the puck is going to Patrick Kane because he's your playmaker. He's the guy who's going to dish you the puck. So teams have caught on to that, and they knew exactly what the play was going to be. It was obvious. Everybody knew it was obvious. You're going to Patrick Kane, and Patrick Kane's going to try and find something. If he can't find something, you're going back to the defense, and the defense is going to try and find something. If they can't find something, back to Patrick Kane. And it was so obnoxious. And if neither of those were an option, dump it in deep, apparently. Dump it chase seems to be pretty much gone at this point. They still played it a little bit last game, but that was pretty much just the bottom lines. The break-ins were far cleaner. You've seen it's incredible what he did in the practice beforehand, because the break-ins were cleaner and the team looked like they were just playing hockey. They weren't playing as if, they were pieces in a game. They are playing as if they were human beings playing the game that they love to play, not pieces of that game. So it was nice to see a different dynamic there. And like I said, nothing against Lalonde, but the pressers, man, the post and pregame pressers. Oh my God, were they not good for Veleno? It didn't make him look better in the eyes of any fans, because it was the same old crap after every game, win or loss. It was, especially the losses, it was, we had a few good looks, the system didn't play the system properly at some points, special teams cost, stuff like that over and over and over again. And it was, okay, if you're saying these things over and over and over again, at what point do you look in the mirror and say, maybe it's the systems that aren't working? And like granted, he wasn't, I will be a staunch defender of this. Steve Yzerman did not hand Derek Lalonde a competitive team in his tenure here. He didn't. Last year, everybody on the team overperformed incredibly. I mean, Joe Veleno had 12 fucking goals. That's a career high for Joe Veleno, by the way, and we'll get to Joe Veleno. But yeah, it was incredible to see the dynamic, because you went from Lalonde saying, yeah, we had some looks, special teams failure, stuff like that, to Mclellan just straight up saying how this team failed, what happened to make this team not play well. And he straight up said it. They were playing too mechanical. It was too readable. They were lost at time. Like, it was obvious. And he's come in and taken some swings at a lot of things already. Like that, the Capitals game, he took a swing, put Joe Veleno on the top line, which Joe Veleno looked fantastic on the top line. It's not going to show on the score sheet, because I don't know how much of that offense you can get out of Joe Veleno anymore. But he definitely made, and Mclellan said this, when he had Joe Veleno on the top line with Larkin and Raymond at the end of the Toronto game, he made Raymond and Larkin look faster. They played such a fast game, and it was so refreshing from what they were playing, because when they were playing the Lalonde system, it looked like they were just going through the motions and they didn't care what was happening. It was dump and chase, dump and chase, dump and chase. And, well, technically it was dump, chase, turn over the puck, dump, chase, turn over the puck, dump, change, turn over the puck. You know, it was so bad. But now they're playing with speed. They're playing faster. They're playing with more skill, and allowing their weapons that they have individually as players to take the forefront and be what drives the offense. Surprise, surprise. You let players do what they're good at, and good things happen. So it was so fun to watch this team in the Capitals game. The defense looked fantastic. Sherratt didn't look too bad. There was one play in particular with Sherratt where he pinched in that led to a wash. I think it was a Pierre-Luc Dubois breakaway. I can't remember exactly, but that was the only complaint I have of any of the defensemen on that team in that game. You know, Gustafsson looked better. Gustafsson is clearly the message to Gustafsson from Mclellan was to shoot the fucking puck, because oh boy was he shooting the fucking puck a lot. And I love that from Gustafsson. And if there's one person that can really take the systems that McClellan's going to implement and use it to his advantage, it's Gustafsson. And he really needs to do that, because we really need him to QB that second power play, because apparently Jeff Petry's never going to get the fucking look. If you guys know me or follow me on Twitter, you know I'm the Jeff Petry guy. And Petry has run that power play, that second unit, far better than Gustafsson has all year, and still Lalonde never gave him a chance. And with McClellan, I don't think he's going to get the chance with McClellan either, unless Gustafsson's out of the lineup. And even then, he may just go with Simon Edmondson. We don't know, because McClellan hasn't been here long enough to have any of that happen. Obviously, Johansson hasn't gotten into the lineup since McClellan's been here, but that was probably the plan from the start. And the lineup looked different. Kopp is back on the second line. He looked good with Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat. Tarasenko was on the third line with, I believe that was Comfer, Rasmussen, and Tarasenko. And then that third line was Kasper, Mott, and who was it? Kasper, Mott. I'm missing somebody, but I can't remember the fucking name. But yeah, they were the lines looked good. And I know a lot of people are complaining about Kasper being on the bottom line and stuff like that. I'm not worried about it. You know, the way I look at it is McClellan sees Marco Kasper as, okay, he's a rookie. You don't want to thrust him into these top minutes unless you need him to. So what I believe he's doing is he's looking at what he has veteran-wise. He's looking at what he has with the majority of the talent on the roster, which is your Kopps, Comfers, Rasmussens, Veleno, stuff like that. Guys who have been on the team for a while or in the NHL for longer, looking to see what you have there before you can figure out where the rookie is needed. And right now the rookie's needed on the fourth line. And Kasper still looked good. Kasper's the one player out of the entire lineup that, or at least the entire forward lineup, I'll say, that every single game, he never looked like he was out of it. He looked like he was giving 120% every single game. Yeah, it was a nice breath of fresh air to see that Capitals game, and even the Toronto game. They didn't look bad. They looked like they were playing far looser, but they were still playing the systems that Lalonde implemented. And McLellan said that too. You know, he can't wave a magic wand and change things in one practice. He had to watch them play the game, the same system, same lineup that they did with Lalonde, and he'll go from there. And you could tell just between the two games the difference. Not even just by the score, just by the way everything ran. So in the Toronto game, they played the Lalonde system, looser, mind you. They still looked lost. They still looked like they couldn't play those systems. And McLellan went in for the next game, said, play fucking hockey, and that's what they did. They played fucking hockey. And that is what we want to see from this Red Wings team. That is what we expected from this Red Wings team. And Steve Yzerman even said it in his presser that, you know, he expected to be competing for a wild card spot this season. That was the first time that Yzerman has ever put a solid line in the sand of where he expected the team to be in any given year. Every other year was like, we're rebuilding, we don't expect playoffs, obviously. If we make it, that's good, but we don't have any expectations other than to see where we're at with, you know, the team as a whole, the core piece, stuff like that. And this was the first time that Yzerman has ever said in his exact expectations. And you could tell that it was starting to irritate Yzerman with just how bad this team was. He said that the team wasn't where they expected it to be. He expected to be competing for a wild card spot at the very least. That's fantastic. It's great that he finally had enough to tell everybody where he expected this team to be, his expectations. Because we all know Yzerman, nothing escapes that office without his say-so. And if it does escape his office, then he wants it out. It's nice to hear that from Yzerman. And he kind of got a bit snippy with the reporters, too. They were asking, you know, stuff like, are you frustrated, or do you know how frustrated people are with the rebuild and stuff like that? And he got a bit snippy with everybody, which the questions were rightfully asked because, you know, there are not such small majority. Well, I won't say majority, not the proportion of the Red Wings fan base that are getting tired of Yzerman and this whole we're got to be patient to make the playoffs thing, stuff like that. All of that is getting tiresome with a lot of fans now, and it was a small amount, but that amount is starting to grow every year they miss the playoffs, and I'm not part of that. I'm not on the fire Yzerman bandwagon. You know, a lot of people don't see what he's doing to make this a competitive team, which is drafting well. He has hit on, so far it looks like he has hit on every single first round draft pick that he has made. So that would be from Mo Seider in 2019 to Michael Brandt-Signy this season. Now, MBN, I'm still a little bit mixed with. It doesn't look like he's being deployed right in the SHL, but, you know, that's something to keep an eye on. But other than that, Seider, obvious hit. Raymond, obvious hit. Edmondson, obvious hit. Who was after that? That was the Casper draft, right? Casper, looks like it's a hit. Danielson, looks like it's a hit. Sandin Pellikka, he just had a hat-trick in the opening game of the World Juniors. Definitely looks like a hit. You know, he's got these first-round guys, and it's not even just the first-round guys. The second-round guys he's hit on. Lombardi, Mazur, who else can I include in there? Pichelnikov looks fan-fucking-tastic. Emmett Finney looks fantastic. You know, Soderblom potentially look like he's getting back into his groove to make a shot for the NHL again. You know, he's drafted incredibly well. A lot of people, you know, get on him. Trey Augustine, forgot about that one. A lot of people get on him for his outside the first round draft picks. But if you look at his resume, it's not as bad as people make it seem to be. Because anything outside the first round, you've only got, I think it's like a 20% chance to make the NHL in the second round. And obviously, some have defied that logic. DeBrinket's one of them. Jason Robertson's another. Trey Augustine's looking like he's going to be another one of those. But if you look beyond that, too, Yzerman and Draper have done fantastically at drafting in the entire time that Yzerman's been here. So a lot of people don't see how well these prospects are developing. All they see is the Red Wings haven't made the playoffs in 9 years. So Yzerman, the Yzer plan must be failing. And obviously other fan bases are looking at that too. And if you're not cheering for this fan base, get the fuck out of here. Don't talk about my team, only watch from the outside. Fuck off. On Twitter, there are people saying, I'm not going to watch this team because they're bad. No, fuck off. If you're not going to be here for when the team's bad, don't come crawling back when they win the Stanley Cup in a few years and say that you were a fan the whole time. No, fuck off. I know who you guys are. But yeah, I'm happy with what Yzerman has done for the most part. His free agency, you can use revisionism and say that he shouldn't have signed a lot of these contracts, but at the time, they all made sense, and, maybe if you look back on it now, half of these contracts don't make any fucking sense. Why would you sign Andrew Kopp and JT Compher to $5 million plus 5-year deals and Ben Sherratt to a $4 million plus 4-year deal and Justin Hall to a $3+ million 3-year deal? And why would you do that? But a lot of people don't know that at the time these players were needed, but Detroit was so bad that the only way to get them in was to overpay a lot of these guys. Andrew Kopp was coming off a fantastic year with Winnipeg and New York, so he earned that contract. And obviously, now it doesn't look like he should have gotten that contract, but at the time, he deserved that contract, and Detroit needed a second-line center who wasn't Pius Suter. Now, while I love Pius Suter, he was not a second-line center. Andrew Kopp could be that second-line center, and it was definitely an upgrade from Pius Suter. So they needed a second-line center. They signed someone in to be that second-line center. You can argue about the term and money now, but at the time, that's what they needed. That was what they had to pay for. Same with Ben Sherratt. They needed another solid defenseman bring in to put next to Mo Seider, who wasn't Justin fucking Abdicator. Was it Abdicator or Erickson? I can't remember who it was at this point. Or Nicoletti. You couldn't have Nicoletti next to Mo Seider anymore. So you had to bring in somebody who you could put next to Mo Seider on the left side and not be an entire liability. Ben Sherratt, before that season, was traded from Florida to Montreal for a first-round pick. Ben Sherratt brought in a massive haul for Florida. So it's not like we're talking about somebody who was a horrible player. He was a good enough player to get to be worth a first-round pick at least. I think it was a first-round pick and some players. So you had that, and Sherratt, in my opinion, he's still definitely a second-pair defenseman. Is he worth $4 million at 4 years? Probably not, but at the time you needed to pay him as a first-pairing defenseman and as a veteran who you're going to bring in to help mentor the young guys. Then you move on to the next season. You sign Compher, Hall, you trade for Petry, all of these contracts make sense. And yes, Petry was a trade. Petry was not signed by Yzerman. People get that wrong all the fucking time, and it irritates me because they use it to try and make it sound like Yzerman made a bad move in signing Petry. No, Jeff Petry was traded for Jesus Christ, what am I on about? Gustav Lindstrom, and I think a third-round pick to Montreal for half of that contract retained that was already being retained by Pittsburgh. That was a $6 million contract for 6 years by Pittsburgh, I think. Then Pittsburgh traded him back to Montreal, retained a little over $2 million. Then Detroit traded Gustav Lindstrom in that pick to Montreal for Montreal to give us Jeff Petry, but also retain another $2-some million. So Jeff Petry's being paid by 3 teams right now, over $2 million. So Petry at $2.6 million he's making right now is definitely worth it. That's a right-handed defenseman that can provide offense. He should have 3 goals this season. I am not over that. I should have just signed Jeff Petry puck, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But fuck the NHL. Anyways, we're going to move into a different segment now, and that is going to be how the players have responded in general to McClellan. And it's pretty easy to see where they're how they're responding. Dylan Larkin said that it's a different voice in the room, a different energy. Sider has been, I won't say cheerleader for McClellan, but you can tell that Sider's kind of preferred McClellan to Lalonde, just in the way he talks about him. And if the Capitals game was anything to judge by, this team is going to be at least fun to watch. Do I think they make the playoffs? Probably not. They're 8 points out of a wild card spot right now, I believe, still. And the Eastern Conference is such a mid-off at this point that they'd have to go on one serious run to even get close to competing for a wild card again. But I believe that if maybe yesterday, I can't remember when that game was anymore, but if that Capitals game was anything to believe in, then this team has the ability to get back above 500 and once again finish above 500. The chance is there. I know a lot of people, for whatever reason, I understand why they're doing it. I hate that they are doing it, though. They're rooting for this team to tank this season so we could get a top 3-5 pick. I don't get that. I know why everybody's cheering for it, because it's this team needs a big offensive threat, and with how quickly the talent drops off in this, at least the high-end offense drops off in this draft, they believe that you need to tank to get that high-octane, high offensive forward to with this season and help expand. But my problem with that is the same people saying this are more or less the same people that are going around trashing the Yzer plan and Steve Yzerman saying he's been here for 6 years. Where's all these prospects? And what does he have to show for it? The team still sucks. They're the same people pretty much. And so you want this team to tank to get another prospect that you can complain about not being here for another year or two. Because guess what? Unless you're a 1, 2, or 3 pick, the odds of you going straight to the NHL are very low. So, after your draft year, or in your draft year, the odds of that happening are incredibly low. Bedard did it, Celebrini did it, but other than that, Fantilli did it, but Columbus was dog shit, and still is pretty dog shit. Although they've been pretty watchable this season, but regardless, unless you're a top 3 pick, the odds of you jumping straight into the NHL right after your draft, it's incredibly low. Maybe Nate Danielson could have made the NHL, but we're realizing, hey, probably good that he's in GR right now. There's a lot of players like that. Michkov probably could have played in the league in his draft year, but he stayed in the KHL. You've got plenty of players who look like they can be in the NHL, but then you put them against grown-ass men who've been in the league for 7, 8, 9 years, and you realize, no, they're not even close to fucking ready. I don't understand the whole tank thing. I feel that if you want high-end offense, granted, Steve Yzerman said this, your Connor McDavids or Nathan McKinnons, they're never going to be on the market. Straight up, they're not going to be unless they're in their 35, and they want one more shot at the cup. You move them and they want to go to a contender. It just doesn't happen unless it's that situation. I mean, we've seen it with Patrick Kane, obviously, when he was moved into the Rangers 2 years ago. It's definitely an odd thing to cheer for and hope for, but at the end of the day, I'm not in charge of how people cheer. So cheer for a top 3 pick if you want, but I'm going to sit here and cheer for my team to win as many games as possible, because I feel that tanking this season could potentially be a bigger detriment to the team than playing to get another 2 consecutive above 500 seasons. And because if you think about it this way, in free agency, especially next season, there is a chance, not a big chance, mind you, but there is still a chance that both Mitch Marner and Mikko Rantanen are on the market. Mikko Rantanen, definitely a lot lower of a possibility than Mitch Marner, but for continuity's sake, let's just say that Mitch Marner and Mikko Rantanen are looking like they're going to the free agency. Do you think they would want to come to a team who, after having the best season that they've ever had since the rebuild started, and then came in this season and just disintegrated and was in the draft lottery and drafted third because they sucked so badly? Or would you want to go to a team that is on the up and is looking like they're on the up because they just had 2 consecutive 500 records in a row for the first time since the rebuild happened? But which team, if you're a player of Mitch Marner or Mikko Rantanen's caliber, where do you want to go? The up-and-coming team who's starting to get their shit together, do you want to be a part of that? Or do you want to be a part of the team that just tanked after having their best season since their rebuild started? Like, to me, the team that's tanking after having that good of a season, in my opinion, looks like a quitting team and not a team that I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of the team that is whose trajectory is going up and higher every season. That's the team I want to be a part of. So a lot of people I don't think are thinking like that, and I think it's important for people to start thinking about that, thinking like that. A lot of thinking going on this episode. I believe that this team is on the right path. I believe Mclellan while he might not be the coach to get us to the promised land, he's definitely the right coach to get this team back on track this season and keep momentum going forward. He brings energy. He brings a massive presence that neither Lalonde or Blashill brought. So I'm excited for the rest of the season. You know, at the very least, they're going to be entertaining. At the very least, they're going to make games interesting. Like the Capitals, they're no slouches. They're one of the best teams in the league this season. They worked the Washington Capitals over like they were nothing. So other than that, I don't have anything else I really want to talk about. What I'm trying to do with these episodes now is make them a bit shorter, kind of Locked On Red Wings style, where they're only going to be 20 to 30 minutes long, and I go through, basic stuff. So that's going to be the end of this one. I hope you guys did enjoy it. I do plan on doing more of these, obviously, like I said. When the next one's going to be, I don't know. Stay tuned to find out. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Flying Wheel Pod. Follow me on Twitter at _Mex Canadian. I am also a contributor over at Octopus Thrower. Please check out my stuff over there and all the other good things we have going on over there. Everybody over there is fantastic. Highly recommend you guys go check it out, especially my stuff. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope watching. What the fuck is this? YouTube? It's going on YouTube, but you're listening right now because I don't have a camera. It's been a while since I've done this. But thank you guys so much for listening. And I will talk to you guys all in the next time. Whatever. See you guys later.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me